What happens when spirituality is weaponized? Well, believe it or not, there's actually something called spiritual gaslighting. We hear about gaslighting all the time when it comes to relationships, but more often than not, there's a lot more spiritual gaslighting going on than you'd realize. I learned all about this when I moved to California, which was new. So, welcome to Gloves Off After Dark. I'm your host, Dr. Kalpa Sundar, and with me is my trusty co host, Joshua T. Berglan, the world's mayor. And we love talking about polarizing topics like this. And I love it because we come from different backgrounds, we have different views, but I think we share the same view on this one.
Mhm.
So, Gloves Off After Dark, we created this because we knew that there was a lot of stuff out there that people don't want to talk about. And you know what? There are things that just don't come out in the daytime. So the truth sometimes comes out when the lights go off. So that's what we're doing here. So, what comes to your mind, Josh? When I say spiritual gaslighting, what comes to your mind?
Well, we do have a completely different background on this because, I spent some time as an evangelist. And so I have a lot of different examples to give, but the most challenging one for me, and of course, I was blinded by this because of how I was trained and raised in ministry, as far as when I wasn't, let me be careful. I wasn't raised in ministry, but when when I turned my life around, when I started that process, I was in the word of faith movement, the faith healing.
Mhm.
I had a supernatural experience that changed my life, and it's well documented. It's in my book, A Fight for Me and the Devil Inside Me. But that I had a supernatural experience, and that's ultimately what it took to change. It's a crazy story. It would take an hour to tell it. I won't go into that. But I was like at a supernatural way of thinking. Like I believed in the
Mhm.
miraculous, I believed in miracles, the gifting, all those things. And the ministry that I fell into was all about that, the leg lengthening, laying hands, praying in tongues. And so I've got a lot of content here. And before I say a word, I want to make this very clear. The last thing I will ever do is say something that would interrupt or someone else's faith walk, because it is
Yeah.
a faith walk. And regardless of what your belief system is, it is a faith journey. Heck, waking up and going out your front door is a faith journey at this point.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to say, like, I have nothing bad to say about any religion, any belief system at all. I will share honestly, however, about my experiences, and I am very qualified to speak of my experiences because I lived them. I've been hurt by them. I know what it's like. I know the things that I did thinking that I was doing right. I know the evil that I did thinking it was right. So
Mhm.
I'm going to speak only from my experience, but I am not going to lash out at anyone's belief system at all. I want to make that clear. So, with that said, the one thing I will tell you is being raised in this supernatural, like raised as in I was a baby, new in faith, new in my walk, new in my journey, new in my surrender journey. And so I was susceptible to everything. I had a supernatural experience. So of course I believed that somebody could grow someone's legs. Of course I believed like I could lay hands on somebody and they would fall out. I believed in all of that because it took something supernatural to turn my life around.
Mm.
And getting in ministry and allowing me to see behind the scenes of how certain things looked. I have a journalist mind, so I would start to ask questions. I would start to question what I was being taught. And this is one of the things I want to talk about now. Prayer language. Prayer language, praying in tongues. One of the biggest areas of spiritual gaslighting I experienced was this.
So I'm sorry to hold. What is praying in tongues? I don't even know what that is. So take.
Okay, well, so the belief is that there's being saved in the Christian faith.
Okay.
Like some people in the mega churches, they raise their hands. Some people go up front. Some people, pray with somebody and surrender their life to Jesus.
Hmm.
There's a prayer, but then there's another level to it, they say.
Okay.
And that is baptism by fire. That
Mm.
is when you get baptized by the Holy Spirit. And typically it is a pretty wild experience. And I've seen it taught a lot of different ways. There's a mix of deliverance, which is almost like an exorcism, but
Okay.
then also specific prayers that people pray over you. Again, it's done differently by a lot of different places. But in my experience, and I'd been through a few baptisms by fire, and each experience was dramatically different. But the one that I really want to talk about was I was in a ministry class. I was being taught, different things about ministry and how to be able to properly pray for people, how to properly just steward an audience to be able to speak the word of God. And I was being taught a lot of different lessons, and it was powerful stuff, powerful, a lot of focus on the spiritual world, the demonic, demons, angels, all that stuff. And it gets out there like it does. But when you're there and you're surrounded by people that are just desperately, they've been broken, they've been prostitutes, they've been addicts, they've been abused, they've been used, and people are broken, and then they see this, they have this faith in the miracle and the belief in it, so they're all in.
Right, because they want to be saved.
They want to be free from, trust me, as somebody
And
that I
yeah,
wrote the devil inside me, I wanted to be free from it. But the prayer language thing is when they do this baptism by fire, and I'll spare you all the details. But one of the things that they say is once you have the baptism by fire, you can pray in tongues. Do you know what I said? No, you don't. You don't. You have no clue. Neither do I. But when you're told that you're in these prayer language classes that they offer, because again, if you're going to have the baptism by fire, you need to learn how to pray in the Holy Spirit, but then you're going to be able to teach others. This is why you take the classes, so you can teach others. But I kept saying, I've been baptized by fire. My tongue's not wiggling. Where's the Holy Spirit? You just have to do it in faith. Wait a second. What do you mean do it in faith? I thought the Holy Spirit was supposed to move my tongue. No, that's me doing that. That's not the Holy Spirit. You have to do it in faith, and you're going to do it with the Holy Spirit. Mike, but that's not what you said. You said, when I did this baptism by fire, when I did all these crazy confessions, when I did all this stuff, I was going to be free, and then the Holy Spirit could take over my body, and I would be just like Jesus. And I would have all the gifting, and I would be able to do this. But then now you're telling me I need to move my tongue in faith. And so I argued over and over, you don't have big enough faith. Your faith is not big enough.
so you got spiritually gaslighted when you were very young. For me, it didn't happen until I was much older. And I think it's really interesting because our contrast is quite significant. I was raised as Hindu. So what you're talking about, I don't even really know much about these. I mean, I know generally about this, obviously growing up in the US, but I was raised Hindu. So I don't, these things were always kind of foreign to me in many
Mm-hmm.
ways.
It's totally different. I mean, there's so many examples to give. It's just and it's endless. That's one small thing, like the fake leg lengthening.
Oh yeah.
We did things for all the stuff, and like one thing that church movement speaks a lot about is witchcraft. I kid you not. We took piles and trash bags of bills in a trash can in the auditorium and walked around it and prayed in tongues for an hour as it burned. And we were praying, believing all of our debt would be wiped away because somebody got a prophetic word, that the head preacher got a prophetic word that if we did this in faith and circled around it. Looking back at it, because I know a lot of witches and warlocks and people like that too, I'm going, it's the same thing they do, just a different name. It's the same thing.
But more
It's no
importantly,
different.
did the debt go away?
No.
Oh yeah, I don't think so.
Not for anyone that was in that room that day. And that was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And
Oh wow.
yeah, everyone I know is in the same situation they were before.
Wow. Well, so here's the thing. I mean, I think a lot of this starts with the person wanting to be saved. Right there is the perfect target for all of these people, whether it's religious fanatics or spiritual healers or whatever. That's just really what I have seen. Because right there, when you're in that situation where you feel like you need something outside of yourself to help you get to where you want to be. And that's how it started for me. because I was going through some really dark places in my life and some real difficult things. And then I moved to California just feeling it was the right thing to do, but not really knowing. And, and then there's all kinds of these, spiritual healers, channelers, this, that, and the other thing. I didn't really even know what these things were, to be honest with you, till I got to California. I got a real education in it. And of course, naturally, because I was in that situation, I wanted to be saved, I fell victim to a lot of these kind of things. And they're not cheap, and they love it when you've got money, because then they can really exploit the hell out of you and tell you all kinds of crap. And, then I started to realize that, you know what? Maybe I really need to find this within myself. I mean, I don't disagree with spirituality or religion or any of that. I just disagree when it's exploited to be used against people.
Yeah, and it is. And that's, part of the questions that started to get me in trouble in ministry, and this is what made me walk away, is I was doing all the things that I was asked to do, get in the Word. I mean, I still read the Bible. I do, but I read parts of the Bible too that have been removed, because the Gospel of Thomas, I think, is extraordinary. It's a book on self-mastery. And I don't believe Jesus was, I think believe Jesus taught, like we need to take some personal responsibility and quit instead of blaming the devil. And like we need to take accountability for our own actions. The Gospel of Thomas, if people can like actually spend time with it, that's where every self-mastery book on the planet was derived from. I
Interesting.
promise you. It's and I also believe, but what that does is it takes the church out of it. It takes that part out, because you don't need to go to church to connect to God. Is church a good thing? It absolutely can be for people.
Yeah.
It can be, because community is everything. You want to be around, like I celebrate differences, but when it comes to core belief system, which I actually don't really align with many people's beliefs at all, so I'm kind of alone here. But for the most part, like having community is good, because you can share ideas and balance it. Like that's what refining is. And
Right.
refining is a beautiful thing. So like I like as far as religion and things like that go, like I see its value. Like without it, I would have never been able to get the structure and the boundaries to live within, to rehabilitate my life, to get away from the addictions that I was a part of. And now my faith is personal, and I keep it more to myself, because the one thing I don't like about religion, this is across all religions, by the way, everyone has their own interpretations of what the books that their religious book says. Everyone has their own interpretations of what it means. And
Right.
then if you were to share that, like we're told to share this publicly, like with Christianity, it's about evangelizing people. You're to share your faith, and you're to try to bring people to church and things like that. There's a lot of that.
Right.
And so you get into some really rough things with that, because then you start telling people how to think and how to believe. And
Right.
honestly, the only true connection or correction there is, I believe, that comes from within. That comes from your
Yeah.
discernment. That comes from, like, if I'm going down the wrong path and I start doing drugs again and I start trying to justify it, like, hey, you know what? I can do it. I've got a couple days. Well, the God I serve loves me enough to go, yeah, you're going to throw it all away, and I'm going to get a consequence for it. Like I'm going to be corrected for it. Like that's with what I recognize with the relationship with God. But in religion, when you share things, now you're not only having to worry about condemnation from God, but now your peers, because
Right.
you may not necessarily, the way they're reading something is different than the way you read it, and therefore you're both walking it out in different ways, and there you are judging each other, like, yeah, you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right. And
Right.
there's a lot of that, or that's not what the Bible says. And like that's what that does to people, is it wrecks your faith. And then of course all the fighting on social media about it,
Right.
that's not attractive, that's not leading me to God. And
No.
that's what happens with this religion and thinking that we know what's better. But what I've learned through walking away from ministry, and my faith is stronger now than it's ever been, but it's me and God.
And
That's it.
I actually think that's So here's the thing. I think in different parts of our evolution, we may need different things, you know? So when you're going through some tough patches and you're trying to find the sense of community to kind of keep you in the straight and narrow when you may veer off and do something different, I could see that it's very, very useful.
Yeah.
Now, whereas in contrary, there's me who I didn't really veer off the path that much. You know, I mean, maybe I did some little silly things, but the things I did were basic, normal things that every teenager does and all that. I never did anything. So I mean, of course, my parents I was Satan in their eyes because I did things that they would never have done because they were so strict and Hindu. But I mean, when you look at reality, I didn't do anything. So now I have Hindu parents who are telling me that everything is terrible. And I was like, I don't know about that. You know, I'm going to be punished for everything. And I didn't really believe that God was that condemning. I just didn't think that God was condemning, that kind of God. I thought God was loving and that we were here because we were human beings and we made mistakes and they were okay as long as we learned from them. And that was always my belief from a very, very young age. So I don't know that I mean, yes, I did a lot of the Hindu stuff because that's how I was raised, but I don't know that I don't know that I really connected with it.
Yeah. I don't connect to any of it now.
Well,
Really.
yeah,
I mean, the way that the world presents it, because I see
yeah,
God in you. I know God is in me, or whatever. I mean, again, I don't even like using that name. I feel like it's disrespectful at this point. But like I see God in the animals and God in the trees, and like I try to treat everyone as if I see God in them, and like if okay, well, if God's looking back at me, if I'm being a piece of shit, or I'm being rude, or I'm being nasty, or I'm lying, or I'm cheating, or I'm slandering, I'm doing like what am I doing? Like
right.
I'm disrespecting the creation.
True.
And so that's how I see it now. As far as my personal, all the details, that's to myself. But I try to, regardless of religion, regardless of gender, and I don't care if you identify as a fish, I am going to treat you with respect and I'm going to show love for you because that's my heart. I don't need religion for that.
Well, but religion sometimes removes that from us by turning one of us against each other,
Exactly.
judging, finger pointing. Oh, well, you didn't follow the word of God. Oh my goodness. So why are we judging now? Who gives us the right to judge other people?
We don't. We're not supposed to. I mean, here's the thing, people, there's two major conflicting things in the Bible that happens. What they say about immigrants, because a verse will be weaponized about to say, hey, we're supposed to take the immigrants in. But then there's another verse that talks about how basically the immigrants are going to come and take everything from you, right? But then
Mhm.
there's verses that talk about well, you should not judge. But then there's other verses that kind of imply that you should. So there's this war and like I see this like I watch my favorite platform ever of social media is X, well before MySpace went away because I like my musical profile anyway in my top friend list that always became drama anyway. But X is this amazing display of people's opinions which and you can do anything there, right, for the most part.
Mhm.
Seeing the fighting that goes on in between people that share faith is scary to me, and that makes me go, this is not the God. Like, why are we wasting energy on this? Like, there's bigger things to fight about. There's
Yeah.
people out there that are in need.
Mhm.
Why are we why are we fighting like this when we should be out serving, being the hands and feet of Jesus or of God? Or like, aren't we here to serve our fellow man? Then okay, why are we fighting over Bible verses on social media? Like that energy could be put somewhere like, I don't know, helping somebody that's homeless or
Yeah.
being picking up the phone and being there to hold space for someone
Oh
that's
yeah.
in need. Like instead of fighting over stuff that you can't prove, it's the dumbest thing ever. Like
Yeah.
it's called faith for a reason. You faith, but it
Well,
doesn't mean that it's for sure.
and I think the underlying implication of all that is that I'm somehow more healed than you, or more
Yeah.
religious, or more something. That's the whole premise of all of this behavior. And I would say this is predominant, I would say, whether it's spirituality, religions, it doesn't really matter. It's the I'm more healed than you, I'm more religious than you, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's all the same thing. And what that does is it really just starts to separate us instead of bringing us together. It's really a way to separate one another, and I don't love that.
We're called, as far as my region of faith, we're called to meet people where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And to judge, like, here's the thing. I mean, you know my past, but one of the things
Mm-hmm.
that men I'll just talk to men, because women being lesbian is celebrated, but men that have gay tendencies are normally crucified.
True.
And it makes it very, very hard for men to be honest about who they are and what's going on. Therefore they hide. And then when you hide and you do things in the shadows, you end up cheating, and all kinds of bad things happen. And so instead of meeting people where we're at, we have people on social media, people on video saying all faggots are going to hell, saying
Yeah.
stuff like that. I grew up hearing that, and I knew I was different. I'm not gay, but I'm different. Like, you can't put me in a box. Now, like, that's not my thing. There's no boxes for me. But
Yeah.
growing up hearing that, I'm like, so God hates me? God, like, and here's the thing. I'm having these thoughts, right? I've totally forgotten the fact that I've been molested multiple times by men and women. And maybe that has something to do with why I am the way that I am. And maybe it's not. But the fact is, I was very confused growing up
Right.
because I had these things happen to me. Oh, by the way, it hurt, but felt good too. And so that's a confusing. And now I'm hearing that thing that felt good and hurt, I'm going to hell for, even though I'm not the one that actually did it.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so, like, those things. And so then we make and you can't heal without being honest. So we have all these gay people that go to church, and yet they're being secretive about who they really are. And so they're
Right.
never going to heal or ever experience the true love of God, or even the true love of our fellow man, because we're not being honest.
Well,
But
that's
we
a
don't
big
make it safe to be
That's
honest.
a big thing. I think the truth needs to be safe. And I think that's part of the reason that we like doing this show, because
Yeah.
we like to tell the truth about everything. Is that's one value you and I very much share. So it's like, the people who are parading that they're healed and they're so perfect, well, they're really not. It's always those people that are doing the worst shit behind closed doors and then calling you out for something less. Usually, what they're doing is way worse than what they're criticizing you about. So basically, now they're just basking in the shadows, acting like there's something they're not. And I mean, they're just things, there's so many wrong levels here. I can't even start.
Me being honest about, of course, I labeled my sexuality back then, but even as an evangelist, I talked about having dissociative identity disorder. Why I was given a pulpit, I have no idea, but a DID, and I was also honest about my sexuality. And
Good.
I and like, but here's the thing: regardless of what everyone thought about it, I was honest about it, and I never hid it. I wasn't active doing those things, but I was
Mhm.
still honest about it. And here's what happened: by being able to be honest about it the way that I was, because at that point I was way past what people cared about me. I'd already written a book that exposed all my stuff anyway, so it didn't matter. But it allowed me to heal. It allowed me to grow. And you know what happened? I may still have the weird, crazy, kinky desires that I had when I was doing a bunch of drugs and some of the other stuff. I may have that, but it doesn't have a hold on me anymore.
Well,
I have self-control. I can be monogamous. I can be abstinent. I can do all those things now because I told the truth and put myself in position to heal. Did it happen overnight? No, but eventually it did. So where now I can just be free of, like, this is me. I don't need to go do those things, but this is who
Well,
I
they're
am.
a part of you. They don't really define you. And your sexuality doesn't define you. What you do doesn't define you. Your choices, I don't even know if they really define you. I mean, they're those choices that you make in that moment based on who you were at the time. So I don't think they define you either. They define a version of you, just not the whole you. They don't define the version of you that could be a year from now. I'm not the same person I was last week. So I don't know. I mean,
I don't know if we get away from our core I
Maybe
did.
not our core, but I think there's some things that are just choices that we make at the time that we
Oh,
probably
sure.
wouldn't make
Like, in other words,
then.
if you were to go to club space, well, you know what? You're in California now. Never mind.
What's club
Oh,
space? I don't even know.
you're yeah. There's I don't even know a club space on the West Coast. That's a bad example. Never mind. Well, if you were to go to like you, because I mean, you're relatively. I mean, you're straight laced compared to me anyway.
Well,
And
that's what makes it so interesting because and I don't feel any desire to be any different.
but if you
Because,
went off and tied one off in Cancun or like Ibiza or something else for a weekend, that doesn't make you the party girl. That doesn't make
no,
you, you know what I mean? Like that's a choice that you made, but that is
of
not your
course.
identity.
Right. And you know what? It's funny because when I was young, I actually chose to have that identity when it wasn't really me. It's taken me a very long time to figure out that that isn't even really me. It was just an identity I chose to have because it just felt, I don't know, fun, exciting, maybe different from what I am. So I did a lot of drinking. I did a lot of things that I actually didn't, I don't know if I really enjoyed it as much as I thought I did. But that revelation only came to me maybe just a few years ago.
Yeah, I will absolutely admit this same thing for me because for me it's a desperate need to fit in.
Yeah, I
I
think
had
that's what it
so
was
much
for me.
trouble. Do I?
I think it was probably the same thing for me because I don't really fit in with most people. And
I
I think that's what makes our synergy fun too, because we're so different, but on some levels, we're kind of very similar, which goes to show all of you
yeah.
listening out there that you can have massive differences in how your life plays out, but you can have some core similarities and choose to connect. Because I think that if you and I had met maybe 10, 15 years ago, we'd have been like, oh, we have nothing in common. I know I would have been like, I don't have anything in
I
common.
still would have liked you though because I've always been drawn to people that were different than me. It's when I
Yeah,
start to hear an echo chamber, even if it's another person, I'm like,
true, but I
I mean,
wasn't in that space. 10 years ago, I wasn't in that space where I probably was as open to all these things, but now I'm like, "Oh, who cares?" But we connect on our core principles,
yeah,
truth, honesty, being authentic, and just telling it like it is. Those are our core principles, and those are the things to me that matter more than your sexuality, what
yeah,
kind of life you did, whether you did drugs or not. I was just afraid of drugs. I was just really
it's a
afraid.
healthy fear. I mean, it's a healthy fear and a legitimate fear to have. I mean, it
Yeah, I was
really
just
is.
really scared. I was like, I don't know about this cocaine stuff. It looks scary. What if I do this? Or I don't know. I was just
I'm
scared.
so glad it's not a trigger anymore. Oh my gosh. I couldn't even smell the word. I couldn't even hear the word without getting triggered for so long. And or
Wow.
if I'd smelled it. But I finally got to this place because I started to go to all of my old places that normally would be triggers, and I started to reframe my triggers. And when I was working private security for some, moguls when I was out in LA, it was around cocaine and hookers and I was around all this crazy stuff. And I mean, I have to thank God for it that craving went away
Mhm.
because that was the hardest part of sobriety was getting rid of the craving. It wasn't necessarily not doing it. It was
The craving.
I need this.
That was what scared me about drugs, the craving and
Good reason to be scared.
being dependent on something to feel a certain way scared me. I mean, granted, I would drink and stuff, and I probably used alcohol for that, which isn't really a whole lot better. It's just alcohol is just more acceptable, socially acceptable, but it's a terrible drug, just as well as all of the others, in my opinion. Now
Yeah.
it's more socially acceptable, but that was why I was scared. But then I realized later that I was actually developing that same stupid relationship with alcohol, that I couldn't go out without drinking and et cetera, et cetera. So over the past couple of years, I've just been working on the fact that I don't really need, if I go out, doesn't mean I have to drink. I make that choice. If I
Yeah.
want to, I will have one usually. If I don't want to, I won't. I have no problem with it now either way. But it took a really long time to get there. And when it comes to people who are very, again, I think here people can act holier than thou on this too. You have the non-drinkers who are like, well, I don't drink. I'm like, okay, good, good for you, and then there's the drinkers who are like, I like to have a good time, man. I'm partying, it's fun, and I could stop drinking if I want to. I could stop drinking tomorrow if I want to. Oh really? Then do it. And then I think that very few people are in this in between weird gray zone. I don't know anybody else in this kind of zone that I'm in. I most of the time don't drink. actually. Well, I would say 80% of the time I do not drink. I could go out, I don't care, I don't need to have a drink. And then 20% of the time I do. I could go with it or I could go without it. Sometimes I realize I haven't had a drink in a couple of weeks and I didn't even think about it. I mean, it's just whatever happens. I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. So, but very few people I think are like that. So that just makes me an enigma because most people are in one side or the other. Oh, you don't drink? Are you an alcoholic? No. I just don't want to.
I can't do anything 2 days in a row.
Oh,
And
yeah. I can't either.
because even if it's dessert, if I have it 2 days in a row, it's going to be 6 months.
Okay,
If
hold
it-
on. I could definitely do dessert 2 days.
I can't do it. I can't do it. So even the health, I don't have one in here. So the Ollipops, the healthy sodas now.
Uh-huh.
So I don't drink Coke because I, like a crackhead, I'll get addicted to it. So now that they have the poppies, I went and got poppies. Well, it's close enough to the Coke taste. So now my brain, like, I have to fight it because I could have 6 in a day, and that's ridiculous.
Well, think about how all of this relates. Like there's this kind of a desire to fit in. I mean, so all of this I think really ties into what we're talking about. Desire to fit in, maybe a little bit of a chemical surge of some sort when you fit in or when you get this surge of dopamine or whatever. I think this is why these things happen. You know, you feel like you belong, you feel like somebody sees you. Then I think when you get to the point where some of this is, or more of this than should, comes from outside of yourself, we've got a problem. Like, Houston, we got a problem. I don't know. That's just what I think. Because if you're sourced from within more, because I'm noticing the more and more I'm self-sourced and sourced from within, these things don't appeal to me as much as they used to.
100%.
And I don't really know if I can explain how or why that is, but that's just what I've noticed.
Well, if our body, and I look at, again, going back to the comment that I said about God being inside of us.
Right.
I mean, I think it's a co-creation relationship.
I agree. I agree.
And like, so I see the God in you and me, but I do know that we have a creator. And so that's my relationship. Like that, I don't talk about it outside of that much more, but that's the relationship. And again, and even being in a relationship with you or a dog or whatever, it's kind of the same thing. But I still pray, I still believe, and I still have my beliefs. But as far as this, I'm being watched above and I'm being punished, and I don't look at it that way at all. Even my understanding of good and evil is different because I've seen I've done this myself in the name of in the name of what I believed I was doing good. I hurt people.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, again, like just because of the things that I was taught in ministry, and I'm not blaming anyone because they were taught too, and they truly believe what they believe. So this is why I'm not going to bash. And if that's enough to steer you from addiction or to give you hope to fight for another day, like I'm not going to trash that. It's just when we start talking about miracles and we're saying, I'm going to grow your leg, and you go in front of a whole church and you start there. I wish I had 2 shoes with me right now. And if you understood how they did that manipulation, where they made it look like a leg was growing, it's a parlor trick. And there's a science behind all of it. And I started to discover this because in my quiet time, I'm reading the Word of God as we were taught to do in the faith. And I'm reading this, and all of a sudden I'm getting these downloads, like the Garden of Eden is in the brain, and the Bible is a metaphysical book. And I mean, and then I started to ask other questions like, well, why was that word changed? Why was this word added? Why were these sentences put in, and why were they taken out of the original text? Why were these books removed? I started asking those questions. And when people started saying, Joshua, stay in your lane. No. You don't tell someone like me that, because then I'm going to start doing more research and I'm going to start asking more questions. And little by little, the veil of deception that had been over my eyes had started to be removed. And so the last 4 years since I've walked away, 3 years away, I've been through this unlearning process. However, as I've unlearned the indoctrination across every gamut you can imagine, my faith grew and grew, and my relationship with the Creator got stronger and stronger. And in that process, this is an important thing that I want to say. I learned and was able to learn the joy in suffering. Religion kept me in suffering, it kept me broken.
Mm.
The freedom started when I started to unlearn some of the BS and started to have a direct relationship with God. And so, because here's the thing, when I became disabled with the tremors, and even I'm doing pretty good today, but
Hmm.
when I became disabled with the tremors, I'd go to church. Everyone looked at me like I was a pariah. No one offered to pray for me. No one offered encouragement. And
Oh,
I'm not judging. I'm not judging
that's
that.
interesting.
There's just people don't have maybe they just didn't know what to say, and that's fair. That's okay. But I also remember crying out when I was disassociating, and I was praying, begging for prayer, and I was scared because I was disassociating, and here it is. I'm trying to be this man of God, but I keep switching into this very different person. I cried out for help. No one is there. You know,
Oh, man.
the only thing that was there for me
What?
was God,
Yeah.
and I only could hear it alone, away from all the noise,
Oh, the
sitting here in
distortion.
silence.
Well, because all of that can be distortion, it could be noise, it can actually be distracting. That's what I find. Sometimes I really need a lot of time by myself because it frees me from the distortion of the outside world, where then for me, the veil gets very, very thin and I can see things very, very clearly. So even when I want to make a point about the veil because there's a lot of this stuff about love and light and all that stuff. And, most of the people this is what I found. Most of the people who use those words, love and light, are lurking in lust and shadows.
Whoa.
They are. They're talking love and light, but they're lurking in lust and shadows. So I'm like, hold on. Because most of the time, what I've had projected upon me by a lot of spiritual people is that, oh, I'm all of love and light. I'm kind of making fun of them right now, but that's okay. But
Go ahead. There's too many
because
gurus on social media for my
Be-
taste.
because it makes me angry because then they're projecting their wounds upon me. And
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
no, no, people, you can't talk love and light and project your wounds on me. I've got plenty of my own wounds and I'm here for you to help me with those. And then I even had a recent experience, which you know about, but this was really interesting. And I have to say this because I think this was like the perfect embodiment of spirituality gone wrong. So I'd actually signed up with this coach and I worked with him for a very short period of time because he was great at selling his spirituality and his divinity and all the things that he knows because he had a very difficult past and he healed from it. And I'm not really making fun of that part because he really did go through a lot of things and my life looks like a freaking cakewalk compared to the things that you've been through and the things that he's been through. For sure, I recognize that. And I know my life has been hard, but really when I look at it, it was really easy in my childhood. I had two parents who cared for me and kept me safe. They loved me. They didn't really do the best in understanding me, but they loved me and they kept me safe and they kept me on the right track. I mean, I'm luckier than most. I have to say, I feel very, very blessed. So just judging from that, I felt like, wow, this man is really, going to help me understand my own spirituality,
yeah,
and he
yeah.
was getting channeled messages. And I thought, again, I was outside of myself in the moment that I decided to work with him. So I start working with him. Every session was about him. Every single session was him talking about him. And then I'm like, well, I'm spending money on this and I'm listening to him talk. Maybe he should be paying me. And that got really confusing. And then, and it was, then I told him I didn't want to work with him anymore. And he got mad. And then came the angry spewage of lots of vulgar words about me, just completely saying the nastiest things about me, shaming me for anything and everything he can think of. And then I thought to myself, how is this even possible? How did I not see this coming? So I think one thing I want our audience to know about is that this kind of stuff can happen to anybody. I don't think that I'm like this victim kind of mentality person, but I was at a low point, which made me maybe more susceptible to this. So, one thing I want people to know is no matter what you do, and when you get involved with somebody that may be not the right fit, even if you spent money on it. I mean, I asked for my money back and he said
You're not
vulgar
getting
things. Yeah, he said vulgar things to me, told me that I wasn't making any money and I'm pathetic and I'm a loser and I'll never be anything, shamed me for so many disgusting things. Meanwhile, this man is gay and he's had some very hard difficulties, and I never once, I was always, I don't care. But I thought, why am I not getting the same respect in return? So I think for what I want people to know from what I've experienced, one of the big reasons I wanted to talk about, because I don't want people to feel victimized by people like this. So even if you spent money, it sucks. And I did, and I'm not going to get it back. And it totally sucks. I totally feel that the universe will somehow repay me in one way or another. But the reality is, get out. Get out. Because just because you spent money on it doesn't mean you have to keep going there.
All right. I want to add something to this because
Sure.
I can't pretend I don't know who you're talking about because I can't, because I have my own stories and I'm not going to go into my stories.
Right.
But what needs to happen is people need to start holding people accountable for their actions because
True.
this what you're saying, I could tell you stories from 5 years ago
Mm-hmm.
about with other. It's not just women; it's men too.
Mm.
Okay, and I'm not. I don't. Again, I have way too much intimate knowledge about this to talk about it
Right.
because I'm not trying to hurt anybody. But
Right.
I will say this, Doctor, you're being very, very nice by not holding him publicly accountable because someone needs to. There's enough people that have been hurt by him. Enough.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's got to hold him accountable. I've got stories, but he,
And maybe one day I will, but for right now, my biggest
yeah,
goal for this episode was that so many people parade spirituality and channeling and all these things, and I've been taken advantage of by enough of these people. And here's the thing, I'm not really easily taken advantage of. So why it made me worry, because I'm not really your poster child for take advantage of me, and yet somehow I was
yeah,
going through a very, very difficult time in my life where I lost my mom, a big relationship broke down, I was having some career changes. It was like a real mess in my life, so I was at a very low point. So I think what I want people to know is that when you're at a low point in your life, and if you're looking for somebody to kind of help you out of it, be very, very discerning, because a lot of things look differently when you're at that low point and you can get taken advantage of. Financially sucks, but more so, those vulgar words that come out of people's mouth. And if they are able to say that to you, why, how, whatever relationship you're in is going to be muddied with that vile stuff, is what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
So, if I'd continued to work with him, maybe I wouldn't have found out. But again, it wasn't serving me. So I just don't want people to get taken advantage of like this, because there's a lot out there, and there are a lot of these people who have these get rich overnight stories, and oh, it was easy. One day I just woke up and I manifested a mansion and all this BS. I'm kind of really
It doesn't work.
disgusted by it. No, it doesn't work that
If
way.
it happened like that, if it really happened that way, we would have an even more broken world than we have now because not everyone is financially, they're not mentally ready, they're not spiritually ready to be able to handle wealth.
Exactly.
And I've been there. I know what that's like. I
Because when you
like,
don't have the nervous system to handle true wealth, it doesn't stay. You may find it and you may have it for a little while, but it's going to go away, you
yep.
know? And it takes a real strength in your nervous system to hold big, big wealth and big purpose. So,
Hmm.
it's just very easy to get sucked into all that crap we see on social media with all these people making it look amazing. They don't really tell you the whole truth. I'm not saying they don't have the things that they have, but I don't know how they necessarily got it. But life isn't that easy. I
All
think
right.
that's what I want people to
I
know.
want to add something. No one should ever pay for a spiritual guru. You have the creator. That's all you need. You don't
Agreed.
need anybody else. Like
Yeah.
the answers are always going to come within.
If you
Other
get
people
quiet
may think
enough and get rid of the shitty noise out there, the answers do come.
right, and these the gurus, like they may be channeling something, but you have no you have no proof what they're actually channeling is what they say they are. And having somebody, I know the spiritual world very, very well.
Mhm.
I'm very comfortable with demons and angels. I don't fear them like other people. I have a completely different understanding of that, and I have been possessed. Okay, so I want to make this clear: no one needs a spiritual guru, or at least one that they're paying for, because the answers truly, truly, truly come within.
I
It's your
I
communication with the Creator.
completely agree.
That's the only answers you need. If you need help in business or in math or social studies, or if you want to learn how to be a doctor or run a doctor practice, go to Dr. Sundar. Go to a professional that does that. But when it comes to your spirituality, that is a personal thing. You don't give it to other people. And sure as heck, if you're paying for it, you're an idiot. If you're paying for psychics and mediums, why? It's a God given gift. No one should be
Right.
charging for their God given gifts
You know
because
what they
it should
should
come
be teaching
naturally.
you? You know what they should be teaching you? To find your own, if that's the thing.
Yes.
Like, just so that you're not dependent on them. But what they do
Should
is,
not be paying for it.
you should not be paying for it. I agree.
No.
Because, the reality is most of us have psychic gifts. We just haven't really opened up
We,
to them.
all of us are
Yeah.
born
Yeah.
with very special gifts. It's our fault if we
100%.
don't use them, but
Right.
we have them.
Totally. Totally. And that's what I realized. Over time, I realized that I had just as much, if not more, than all the people that I was working with. And I'm like, what have I been doing this whole time? So, yeah, it's very interesting out there these days. And I think I just don't want people to get snafu'd. I want people to realize, I think my take home messages for what I wanted to get out there to everybody was, number one, find it within yourself. I think you and I are in agreement on that, that it's all within you. Probably all of us have some sort of psychic gifts. If we get quiet enough and connect with ourselves enough, we will find out what they are, and they will get stronger over time. Any other big takeaways that you think we need to?
No, I think you covered them.
I mean, that's a big one. Oh, and well, maybe that we all should be respectful of one another despite our opinions.
We don't know what other people have been through. Even if you've
Right.
been through the same journey, like, wow, I was sexually abused too. Yes, I was homeless too. It's still not the same story. And
No, it's
it's
not.
still a completely different perspective.
Totally, totally not the same perspective. And and you said I was being too kind, but that I'll tell you why. Because I look at it with some grace. I was meant, oh, trust me, when I got those vile comments spewed at me over 100 texts, the
You had
degrading me and all this,
every right to
yeah,
be
I was
firing.
very angry. But then I sort of realized that I felt sorry for this person. I do. I just had some grace to just realize that I don't know what he's been through and how that's still affecting him. So I hope somehow there's retribution.
I'm not, listen, I am not self-promoting here at all. But the problem with a lot of the coaches and the speakers, even preachers, oh, I used to be a sinner and I was a drunk and I was a those
Mhm.
words don't mean anything. You can talk about on stage, talking about being homeless, you were drugged, you did coke off of a hooker's butt, like whatever. You can tell those stories and talk about how broken you are. But here's the problem: we're all desensitized to things, and the truth is, if we're not getting to the root and talking about the roots of the issues and sharing that on stage, we're not really doing any good. Because what this does, the stage allows people to hide because you go in performer mode, you use NLP, you use big motion. I talk with my hands, so here I'm guilty. But I mean, you're doing all this persuasive stuff, but a lot of the gurus that get on stage and they sell all the stuff from stage, that's all a mask for their own brokenness. Because
Right. A
if they
lot of
can hype themselves
performance.
up, it's like saying I'm more anointed than you. This happens in the church.
Yep.
This
Yep.
is what happens, and because here's the thing:
Hmm.
I truly believe that once we actually truly do the work to heal, yes, we want to share the message, yes, but there's a different way of going about it. Because when we're truly in our hearts and sharing from that place of true understanding,
Yes.
it doesn't come out in theatrics. It doesn't
And
come out.
performance.
And
And that,
I know that. I used to
yes.
perform. I know it was a performance. But the truth was, past that performance, I was still a scared little boy
Hmm.
hiding inside, and I was using my big persona to hide. It's
Right.
much, much different now as I've continued to heal. Yes, I have more healing to do,
We all do.
but the approach is much, much different. it is much more humbling to be truly broken. To truly learn a lesson is humbling.
100%.
Humbling.
I think you hit on a very core point, and I want to just kind of just rephrase it because, I agree with you. So many of these people have this very high performative energy. So actually, you can actually recognize that because it is a lot of performance to hide a scared boy inside.
Yes.
And I think at the end of the day, that's what most of us, I mean, when I had a very big performative persona too. So I say this because I've done that as well.
Mhm.
And underneath it all was a scared, lonely, terrified little girl about being herself, and that was too much and nobody would actually like me. And then one day, I healed that and I said, I'm going to be the too much that I am because I'm a little extra. It's okay.
Mhm.
And then everything changed and my external world changed. I didn't have to have that performance because I could just be. So I think that's where I felt that he deserved a little grace, because underneath that is just a very scared person that maybe his mask is being exposed, and he has to deal with that, So I don't know. But I think that's a great place to land. Let's all work on loving each other through our differences and our similarities, and understanding each other, and maybe just let's not be vile and mean towards each other, and definitely let's not take advantage of each other.
I want to add something really quick. This is kind of a weird thing to say, but for all the people that are scared of losing their jobs and all the things that are going to happen in the future, I will tell you this right now: the sooner you get comfortable with the truth, the sooner you're going to recognize the opportunity that you have. Because in a world full of robots, in robot run industries and AI run industries, and technology taking so many jobs away, there's not going to be anything available. So while you're trying to fit into the herd, all you're going to do is fit yourself into universal basic income and no opportunity in a prison. Freedom is truth. And to add to that, because we're in a creator's economy, a storytelling economy, your story is literally the fuel and the engine to bring all this stuff to life. That will be your business, is storytelling. And the only way to separate yourself is the truth, your unique perspective of your truth, and sharing that with the world, sharing that value, entertaining people through it too, tapping into your God-given gifts and talents and being expressive that way. Literally, that is the blueprint for success in the new world that we're going into. And whether you want to believe me or not, I've got multiple books, will verify, in 20 years of studies to prove it up. But the fact is, another thing too, to take it even another step further with technology, we're going to have real-time telekinesis. There's going to be no secrets. So you might as well get comfortable with the truth now. I'm telling you right now.
That's a topic for a whole
get
nother
comfortable
day.
with the truth. Because there's going to be no secrets.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
Revealed.
Well, thanks, Josh, for joining me. This was a fun episode. We got all kinds of different topics covered here. Well, everybody, we do this once a month, so stay tuned for November's episode of Gloves Off After Dark.